The airplane hummed at 30,000 feet. A mechanical lullaby barely masking the restlessness of passengers crammed into economy. Aisha clutched her twins, Amara and Amir, both 3 years old, their tiny bodies squirming against her on the narrow seat. Her worn sneakers tapped nervously against the floor, her hands smoothing their curls as she whispered soft reassurances. This was their first flight Chicago to New York, a one-way ticket to a new life. Aisha's heart thudded with equal parts hope and fear. At 24, she was starting over, leaving behind a string of hardships, a dead-end job, an abusive ex, and a cramped apartment that smelled of mildew. The $200 in her pocket was all she had left after selling everything for these tickets. Amara giggled, pointing at the clouds through the window, while Amir clutched his stuffed dinosaur, his eyes wide with wonder. Aisha smiled faintly, her exhaustion momentarily eased by their innocence. She adjusted the threadbare backpack at her feet, stuffed with diapers, snacks, and a single change of clothes for each of them. Her own dreams, once vibrant visions of college, maybe nursing school, felt like relics of another life. Now, it was about survival, about giving her twins a shot at something better. As the flight attendant passed with a beverage cart, Aisha noticed a small black object wedged between her seat and the wall. She reached down, her fingers brushing worn leather, a wallet. Her breath caught. She glanced around. Nobody seemed to be looking for it. The twins were distracted, Amara doodling on a napkin, Amir chewing a cracker. Aisha opened the wallet, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a thick stack of crisp $100 bills, a driver's license, and a few credit cards. The license belonged to a man named Ethan Caldwell, his photo showing sharp features and piercing blue eyes. The address listed a penthouse in Manhattan. This wasn't just any wallet. It belonged to someone with means. Aisha's mind raced. That cash could change everything. A deposit on an apartment. Groceries for months. New shoes for the twins, whose sneakers were held together with tape. Her fingers lingered on the bills, the weight of her struggles pressing against the temptation. But then Amara tugged her sleeve, asking for water. Aisha's gaze softened. She thought of her mother, who'd raised her alone, always saying, "Do right, even when it's hard. That's what makes you whole." Aisha closed the wallet, her decision settling like a stone in her chest. She flagged down the flight attendant, a woman with a kind but harried expression. "Excuse me," Aisha said, her voice low. "I found this. Can you make sure it gets back to its owner?" The attendant's eyes widened slightly at the wallet, then softened as she took it. "That's awfully honest of you," she said. "I'll take care of it." Aisha nodded, turning back to her twins. Amir was now asleep, his dinosaur tucked under his chin. She felt a pang of doubt. Had she just thrown away their future? But she pushed it down, focusing on the clouds outside, willing herself to believe in the fresh start waiting in New York. Unbeknownst to Aisha, the wallet's owner, Ethan Caldwell, was seated in first class, a few rows ahead of the curtain separating the haves from the have-nots. At 38, Ethan was the CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, a tech firm that had made him a billionaire. He was used to luxury private jets, tailored suits, and people bending over backward to please him. This commercial flight was a rare inconvenience. Booked last minute after his jet was grounded for maintenance. He'd been distracted, scrolling through emails on his phone, when he realized his wallet was gone. A quick pat of his pockets confirmed it. His jaw tightened, not because of the money, which was pocket change to him, but because of the principle. People were careless, or worse, dishonest. When the flight attendant approached him, holding his wallet, Ethan's first thought was that someone had pickpocketed it. "Where'd you find it?" he asked, his tone clipped. "A passenger in economy turned it in," she replied. "Didn't even open it, as far as I could tell." Ethan's brow furrowed. He took the wallet, flipping through it. Every bill, every card, untouched. Who found it? He asked, curiosity piqued. A young woman with 2 kids, seat 23B. Ethan glanced toward the curtain separating first class from economy. He could have let it go, most people would have. But something nagged at him. He'd built his empire on reading people, spotting the rare ones who didn't just chase profit or power. This felt like one of those moments. Can I meet her? He asked. The attendant hesitated. She seemed private, but I can't ask. Do that, Ethan said, leaning back, his mind already turning over possibilities. Back in economy, Aisha was coaxing Amara to eat a few more crackers when the flight attendant returned. "Ma'am," she said softly, "the gentleman who owns the wallet would like to thank you personally. Would you be okay with that?" Aisha's stomach twisted. She didn't want attention. She'd only done what felt right. But the twins were watching, and she didn't want to seem rude. "Sure," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Minutes later, Ethan appeared, ducking slightly as he navigated the narrow aisle. He was taller than his license photo suggested, his presence commanding, yet understated in a crisp white shirt and navy blazer. Aisha stood awkwardly, Amir stirring in her arms. Ethan's eyes flicked from her to the twins, then to the cramped space around them. The backpack, the worn shoes, the napkin covered in Amara's scribbles. He extended a hand. "I'm Ethan Caldwell. You found my wallet." Aisha shook his hand, her grip firm despite her nerves. "Aisha Johnson." "It was nothing." "It's not nothing," Ethan said, his voice steady but warm. "Most people wouldn't have bothered, or they'd have kept the cash." Aisha shrugged, avoiding his gaze. "Didn't feel right to keep it. I hope you'd have done the same." Ethan's lips twitched, almost a smile. "I'd like to think so. But you've got 2 kids, and you still turned it in. That's rare." Amara piped up, "Mommy's nice." Aisha flushed, brushing her daughter's hair back. Ethan crouched to Amara's level. "She sure is. What's your name?" "Amara." "And that's Amir." She pointed at her sleeping brother, who stirred but didn't wake. Ethan straightened, his expression unreadable. "Where are you headed, Aisha?" "New York," she said simply. "New job, new start." He nodded, glancing at the twins again. "Let me do something for you." "A reward." Aisha shook her head, almost too quickly. "I didn't do it for a reward." "I know," Ethan said. "That's why I want to." She hesitated, her pride warring with the reality of her empty bank account. "We're fine," she said, but her voice wavered. Ethan didn't push. Instead, he handed her a business card, sleek and embossed with his name and company logo. "If you ever need anything job leads, a contact in New York, call me. I mean it." Aisha took the card, more to end the conversation than anything else. "Thank you," she said, tucking it into her pocket. Ethan returned to first class, but Aisha's face lingered in his mind, her quiet strength, the way she'd shielded her kids from the world's harsh edges. He'd met countless people in boardrooms and galas, but none like her. Back in his seat, he made a call to his assistant. "Find out everything you can about an Aisha Johnson, arriving in New York today. Young, 2 kids. I want to know her story." The plane landed at JFK, and Aisha herded the twins through the chaos of baggage claim, her heart heavy with the uncertainty of what came next. She'd lined up a waitressing job through a friend, but it was barely enough to cover rent in a city as ruthless as New York. The twins were cranky, and her arms ached from carrying Amir. She didn't notice the man in a black suit watching her from across the terminal, his phone pressed to his ear as he relayed her movements to Ethan's assistant. Days turned into weeks. Aisha settled into a tiny Brooklyn apartment, the kind with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. The waitressing job was grueling long shifts, rude customers, and tips that never stretched far enough. But she kept Ethan's card in her wallet, a small reminder of that moment on the plane. She didn't call, though. Pride, or maybe fear, held her back. Ethan, meanwhile, couldn't shake her from his thoughts. His assistant's report painted a stark picture. Aisha had grown up in foster care, worked her way through high school, and gotten pregnant young. The twins' father was out of the picture, and she'd been scraping by ever since. No family, no safety net. Yet she'd returned his wallet without a second thought. Ethan wasn't sentimental. He'd clawed his way to the top through pragmatism, but Aisha's choice gnawed at him. In a world where everyone took, she'd given. One evening, as Aisha wiped down tables at the diner, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost ignored it, probably a bill collector, but something made her answer. Aisha Johnson? The voice was polished, professional. This is Claire, Ethan Caldwell's assistant. Mr. Caldwell would like to meet with you tomorrow. He has an opportunity to discuss. Aisha's heart skipped. She'd almost forgotten about him. What kind of opportunity? He'd prefer to discuss in person. Can you meet at his office, 10 a.m.? Aisha glanced at the twins, playing with crayons in a booth. She didn't trust handouts, but curiosity and desperation won out. Okay, I'll be there. The next morning, she arrived at Caldwell Enterprises' sleek Manhattan headquarters, the twins in tow. Amara clutched her hand, wide-eyed at the glass atrium, while Amir clung to his dinosaur. Aisha felt out of place in her thrift store dress, but she held her head high. Claire, a brisk woman in her 40s, led them to Ethan's office, a corner, suite with a view of the skyline. Ethan stood as they entered, his presence less intimidating than